Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of art, the show of music, mezcal, Aberfeldy, Craigellachie, and so much more. Today we sit down and chat with Georgie Bell, the global malt brand ambassador for Bacardi. Some of these things like the Deveron, Aberfeldy, Craigellachie, and as we know, Dewar's. So we recently sat down. She came into town during ASAIL weekend of all weekends. Had a lovely chat in the mid-afternoon, sipping some beautiful Craigellachie, and talked about life and talked about whiskey. A beautiful chat. Thank you, Irene, again from Bacardi, making the introduction and sitting in and laughing along with us. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Georgie Bell.
I think on the positive side of things, I've been in the whiskey industry specifically ever since I graduated university. So that was back in 2010. So the last 8 years, I've kind of devoted my life to whiskey. And I've seen the whiskey industry even change in terms of the dynamics internally since then, and also with sort of drinkers and drinkers' attitudes. So, you know, it's not all bad, but I definitely think there's room for more growth. I very much fight for that. It's funny though, I often get asked the question, and it's one of my most disliked questions, is what's it like to be a woman in the whiskey industry? And I want to respond with, well, I've never been a man. So
it's a bit subjective, I think.
I don't really, I've never felt like I've experienced any discouragement or anything like that. But someone posed it to me, and for a while, I was thinking, well, I'm just not going to answer that anymore because I'm sick of it. Then someone posed to me about 6 months ago, they were like, the reason that question's being asked is it because it still needs to be asked. When it's not asked anymore, it means the situation's been normalized, right? And that's accepted. And so you, as a woman in the industry, do have the responsibility that, yes, you can talk about it in your own way and in the right way, but you still need to talk about it because until it becomes normalized, we have to get there. Yeah. The thing is with whiskey, and I find this so fascinating, is that a lot of the stereotypes that exist within, and sorry, when I say whiskey, I mean Scotch whiskey. Okay. I know over here in America,
but bourbon's got similar issues,
but just whenever I say whiskey, I'm sorry, I mean Scotch. It's funny, like a lot of the stereotypes that exist within Scotch whiskey are actually because of the whiskey industry itself. If you look back at past advertising, you go back into sort of that. Well, single malts emerged in the 1960s. That's when the first single malt came into market. Yeah. And that was when, you started to build up this idea that single malts were better than blends, which is a stereotype that we have within Scotch. You then look back into advertising and you see that blended Scotch was always advertised mixed, generally. So Dewar's, for instance, another whiskey within our portfolio, Tommy Dewar was actually claimed to be the inventor of the highball. And so it was always sort of advertised in a highball serve. But single malts were always advertised straight. Sure. So again, you have another stereotype from there. And then my favorite one is actually, if you look back, there is advertising is split between drink this as a man and you'll be successful. And you've got a lot of those poses of a guy looking into a glass with a woman standing behind him, just posing. Right. And then the other one is women being used as sort of almost like sex sells. And there was a series of, I don't want to name names, but I can show you them later. Sure. There's some awful like advertising campaigns of women being used to sell whiskey because sex sells. So, when we actually look at the idea of whiskey being a man's drink, it's come from advertising. Absolutely. Now, that's okay. Like, it's fine because it was of its time. Right. It doesn't mean it's right, but it was of its time. But I think myself, along with pretty much everyone that works within whiskey today, we're like, okay, that existed.
Yeah.
But now is our opportunity to re-educate empathetically, knowing that people might have that idea because of the way it's been interpreted in the past.
But, you know, what's interesting is that this prescribes consumer behavior, you know, to your point.
There we go.
And that's the thing I think is actually quite dangerous, because there are some, I mean, we'll get into what we're in a second, but there are some astonishing blends that I wouldn't dare put something in, because it's like the perfect, it's like a cocktail in itself, because you're using these different whiskeys to represent different kinds of things. So in a way, we have an opportunity to prescribe how people should drink, because they're looking for guidance.
Yeah.
It's a very, very convoluted and sometimes intimidating world of Scotch.
No, totally. And there's a lot of judgment in it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's funny. A friend of mine in the UK, a guy called Ian, the other day asked me about adding water to whiskey, and he has this theory that it's an alpha male thing, that if you don't add water to your whiskey, it's because you're an alpha male and you can take it. And I was like, well, I'm not sure about that theory, but there definitely is this idea that, if you don't add water to your whiskey, it means you know how to drink it properly and you're a real whiskey drinker. And it's like, again, that's something where I'm like, okay, I can empathize. And if you want to drink your whiskey like that, that's fine. But, you know, for me, this whiskey that we're about to have, the Aberfeldy,
I keep smelling it, and that's just, it's like I have like a freshly baked pie in front of me, and I'm like, I gotta eat this thing. But yes.
But it's like, I'll drink that neat, sure. Yeah. I'll have that sometimes stirred down in an old fashioned with some honey syrup, right? Yeah. Maybe a little bit of a Madeira note in there as well to bring out the Madeira cask. I might want that in a highball if it's really hot, like it is for me here today. You know, so there are lots of different ways of doing it. And I think that's why it's exciting also seeing bartenders using, especially single malts more in cocktails. Getting out that message that if chefs use their finest ingredients in dishes, why shouldn't bartenders use their finest ingredients in cocktails? Yeah. And by putting a single malt in cocktail, it's opening up people's ideas into what whiskey can be, rather than it just having to be subjected to be drinking straight or with a drop of water or with ice. This is one of the things that kind of to resonate that point. The other evening I had an Islay Scotch in a pineapple gum lime juice kind of tiki drink, and I was like, yum. I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, you got it, fine. I'll try, be open-minded. Yeah, it was fucking incredible, because you don't ever say, well, I'm going to actually emphasize and bring out the notes of an Islay peated Scotch with citrus. So let's put it this way: the Renaissance is perhaps upon us, and people are willing to explore, and they don't feel like they're ruining it by making it heightened and accentuated by other really beautiful ingredients. And I think with whiskey in cocktails, you know, sure, you could put this in a pina colada and it would taste absolutely banging. Yeah. Would it be the most appropriate use of this whiskey to highlight and accentuate its like flavors? Yeah. Probably not, but I'm not one to judge. You know, I love a pina colada, so, you know, all's good. Sure. But, you know, I think that's what's really exciting, is seeing what bartenders these days around the world are doing with whiskey, with single malts, with blends, with American whiskey. And it's really fun to see.
It's great. And one of the things that's really becoming quite interesting, as it always has been, but even more lately, is cask treatment as a segue into this beautiful bottle you just brought back from Heathrow into Texas. And so tell me about an Aberfeldy 16 Madeira cask. Right?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been smelling it.
Sexy whiskey. So this just launched like a month ago. I don't even have any stock of it at home. Every time I pass through Heathrow Airport, I'm having to like buy bottles to bring out here, like almost like muling them over. It just launched in the UK, but it is a global release.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. So it will be coming to airports here in the States. So Aberfeldy is known for its honeyed richness, and Stephanie McLeod, our master blender across the whole of our portfolio, she's a huge fan of Madeira casks, and she actually thinks that Madeira is Aberfeldy's best friend.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So this is a 16-year-old whiskey that for the majority of its life is matured in first fill bourbon, refill, and rechar casks. I love retrial casks with Scotch. It brings out a slight spiciness to the mix, almost like a High West double rye spiciness. Right. And then it's then finished in 2 different types of Madeira casks for about 6 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes these drams necessitate a moment of silence to reflect. Which also is kind of nice here is I think we get some darker chocolate and kind of coffee notes too, pulled with the light brightness, honey crispness of the Aberfeldy. So it's a more brooding version, you know?
This is like, I don't know, it's coming up to, well, it's winter in the UK at the moment, and, you know, it's coming up to Christmas, and this is like, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this is like what I want to be drinking
at
a responsible hour for the next 3 months.
Well, the good thing is there's no glossary for the responsible hour, so I dare anyone to go research and tell me what that is. Is it GMT? I don't know, because it could be East Coast.
It's funny, we were in a bar last night, Irene and I, and because I flew in yesterday, and it's a 10-hour flight, right? So I left the UK at midday, and at 1 o'clock, like, the airline I was flying on, they had a pretty good wine list, and I don't usually drink on flights, but I was like, oh, I'll just have 1 glass of wine. Kind of cheekily, even though, I mean, people love drinking on flights, right? But I fly so much that actually normally a flying day is a day off alcohol for me. Yeah. But I was like, I'll just have 1 glass of wine. I had 3. It was fine. It was 10 hours. And I got here and we were sitting at the bar and I was like, yeah, so I had my first drink today at 7 a.m. Austin time. And they were like, and? So what? That's fine.
They didn't flinch. I know we'd expect that they would flinch here. It's an interesting lifestyle and it is responsible, but our schedules are also different.
Yeah.
You know? So a working lunch for me is different than a working lunch for someone that's behind the bar.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a brilliant thing. So this is what I was thinking about. So this is the first one. This is this evolution of Aberfeldy. And enhancement and enrichment of it. So I want to go back to your story. And seemingly, so you went to school in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
But you grew up in the UK.
Yep.
Because, so unfortunately, whereabouts in the UK did you grow up?
I grew up just outside of London.
Okay.
Yeah, about 45 minutes outside of London, drive-wise. And I ended up going to Edinburgh University studying geography. Mm-hmm. And in my first year, my parents turned around to me and said, stop freeloading, you need to get a job in a bar. Sorry, they said, you need to get a job.
Okay.
Sorry, I jumped ahead. But then they said, whatever you do, do not get a job in a bar, do not get a job in a nightclub, you will ruin your education.
Well, Rook, why might they say that? Do your folks have any experience in the hospitality industry?
No, not from working in it. And they thought that the late nights would then consume my life. What they didn't realize is I was still spending this, I'd still be in a bar late if I wasn't working in it. But I got a job in a nightclub. That was my first ever job. And the company took a chance with me and it was amazing. And that was the start of everything.
The kind of the first taste.
Yeah, I got so consumed with it. I mean, I still did well with my degree. I got a 2-1 at the end.
Yeah, which was interesting to me. So, you were talking before we were recording, you were saying how much you've traveled. You've been to pretty much you've been to America over 40 times.
Yeah.
This is the first time into Texas.
Yeah.
So this sense of geography for you, is it that you had this wanderlust, that you had this just deep fascination with the world and that's why you pursued that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I did geography at university because, so when you go to university in the UK, before you go, you have to write a proposal as to, like an essay as to why you want to study that course.
So it's that specific. Wow.
And I wrote, this was when I was 17, and I wrote that I wanted to do geography because I wanted to be like Sir Captain Scott and explore the world. I wrote this, I wanted to count penguins with this British Antarctical survey.
That's amazing.
And I wanted to just travel around the world and I wanted to learn about it and learn about glaciers. And that's why I was doing geography. And it's funny that I've ended up with a job where I am exploring the world, but instead
counting
of a compass,
bottles,
instead of a compass in my hand, I've got a bottle of whiskey in my hand,
It gives you the same kind of calibration, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it as it maybe flipped to how you originally anticipate.
We're little penguins. Yeah, you're right.
But it's kind of a discovery. I mean, how about the life of a traveler?
Yeah.
Not necessarily someone that's in the brand ambassador, but as an explorer.
Yeah.
Can be a solemn one, can be a very, very lonely one. So thinking about just the sheer act of traveling and exploring, did you have predilection towards communicating with people? Did you like people? That's because that's one of the things. This isn't. I'm not casting judgment. I'm just like some people are like, well, I would rather just be an academic traveling the world, taking notes, and then taking pictures of these penguins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this job. So I've traveled for about 6 to 9 months of the year.
Yeah.
For the last 6 years, and this job has really made me like come out of myself. And I think the hospitality industry does that anyway. You step behind the bar and you have this amazing team, right? And you get a confidence that you may not have had before, but a way of talking to people, and even the sheer act of making people's night through drinks and talking to strangers and, instantly being able to be their friend. I think that develops you as a person. So I think working behind a bar completely set me up properly for this job. Was I like that when I was 18? I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
But
so it actually honed that tool for you.
Yeah.
Your ability to... Do you like giving speech? Rather, let's go pre and then post. Did you like standing in front of a crowd and giving a speech?
I mean, I still
don't like it.
Well, I love doing it. I do. But, oh my God, I get so nervous.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was at Tales this year and I was presenting there, and someone was like, why are you so nervous? You do this all the time. And I'm like, I still get so nervous. Like, you don't want to be around me like the half an hour before I have to talk to a group of people. I just get really nervous. I don't know.
Any rituals for you before you take the stage, so to speak?
Not really.
No, just nerving out.
Just freaking out mainly. That seems to be a commonality every time.
But I mean, it's interesting because I love the duality.
Yeah.
Because, it's like you go before the curtain opens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh crap.
Yeah, I am literally doing that, and I'm like, oh fuck, sorry.
And then it opens up. Yeah,
and
no,
like,
it's fine.
My palms get sweaty, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I think I'm gonna like full up, and then, I'm so passionate about what I do and about not only just the whiskies within our portfolio, but the whiskey industry in general, and also education. That I know that once I've spoken for even like 1 minute in front of the people, I'm like, it's fine. I'm not a person that has to stand there and imagine everyone naked.
Yeah.
But I'm a person that has to stand there and I have to think in my head, look, no one's sitting here to want me to mess this up,
right.
So once you've kind of got that in your head, then I'm okay.
The types of questions you've been getting over this evolution of being a brand ambassador, have they gotten better, worse, same?
I think they've got a lot easier.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's not the right word. But I think when I started this job, I was 24.
That's incredible.
I'm 30 now.
Yeah.
I was 24. That's very young. And, I'd be standing in front of groups of people and I'm like this young blonde girl standing there, and you'd often get these quizzical looks being like, I mean, are you lost? Like,
Yeah.
And then you start talking, and then sometimes, depends on what countries you're in, if they're more traditional thinking countries than others, sometimes you'll get someone asking you a question to kind of like trip you up.
Sure.
And
condescending.
I think that's why I did some of my studies within whiskey and distilling, is to sort of make sure that I was even more confident.
Yeah.
And I found with stuff like that, as long as you pull out like a silver bullet of information, then you're fine. You do that and everyone's like, oh, she knows what she's talking about.
Vetting complete. Check mark.
I think but even though saying that, like, even though I remember one of the first whiskey festivals I went to actually as a global brand ambassador was the Victoria Whiskey Festival that Lawrence Graham runs up in Victoria in Canada. Still to this day, like up there with one of my favorites.
Beautiful place.
Yeah. And, being at this festival, I was doing a presentation there, but being there with a lot of my ambassador peers, like other people that were ambassadors who were supporting me, they'd treat me like a sister. Yeah. And it was so nice because you knew that you had that support, that it made you feel less like you were just, for me, just like out of my league.
I think that's amazing. The community. There is a whiskey community.
Yeah.
There is an agave community.
Yep.
And I love the fact we can rally together to learn and support each other too.
I wanted to be in tequila originally.
Did you?
Yeah. So I actually wrote about whiskey for my undergrad dissertation.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I did geography, but one of my courses that I did was the geography of wine. That got me thinking about the relationship between geography and alcohol. So I actually ended up doing my final year thesis on whiskey and regional identity and the creation of an image of a place through the whiskey industry. So I studied the island of Islay and tradition and heritage and the geography of consumption and basically the projected identity of Islay to the world through its whiskey industry.
Oh, it's amazing.
But before I did that, I actually proposed that I was going to go to Mexico and study tequila and do globalization versus localization. I'd written this whole proposal. I was getting ready to go there for the summer. This was the summer of 2009 to go and do interviews and do 6 weeks of travel out there.
Great time to do it then too. Like almost undiscovered, right?
Yes, you say that, but in the summer of 2009, hello swine flu.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
So swine flu happened. I remember it was like, I just finished one of my exams in my third year and my mum phones me and she's like, yeah, Georgie, you need to check the news. Swine flu's just happened in Mexico. You can't go. And I was like, what am I going to do? And that's why, because I was in Scotland and I liked whiskey already, I was like, right, I'll do whiskey. So it sounds bad, but if it wasn't for swine flu, I'd actually be within tequila.
But that's a really pivotal thing.
Do you know the other hilarious thing as well is that ever since 2009, I've been wanting to go to Mexico. I'm finally going there this Christmas with my boyfriend. I still haven't been 10 years later, and I'm finally getting to Mexico.
It was meant to be. Yeah. Finally. Man.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Lovely spot. So we've got a couple. So I'm thinking, how do I frame this narrative? And because I've got such a strange nerdy affinity towards Craigellachie, we're going to talk about that in one day. But I do want to talk about the moment in which you realized whiskey was going to be something for your career, something for your lifeblood. And I've been regaled with some tales in the press about a particular Quinta Rubin that you sipped with some water, and then that opened up your perspective on it. But when did you truly understand how to taste whiskey? Not necessarily that you enjoyed it.
So that was it was just after university. And so this was back in the summer of 2010. And I was working in a bar and I didn't like my manager. None of us liked him. And it's okay. It's fine to say that. I'm like, am I pissing anyone else? No, it's fine. So anyway, I quit without a job, and that's the first time I've ever done that. And I was going to move to Mexico actually then to teach English, and I did my TEFL 110 hour. I was like, right, I'll go out there and teach English.
You're ready to go. You're ready to
I was ready to go. I'd accepted a job. And then I had this conversation with someone, and then I was like, no, actually, I don't want to do that. I want to get into whiskey. So there is this incredible independent bottler and membership club called the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And literally after I'd had this conversation the next day, I'm not making this up, I looked on Gumtree or something like that, and there was a job as a bar assistant.
No way.
I hounded them with CVs, with resumes. Literally, I think I got it to them through like 5 different people. I ended up getting a job there. Now, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society is an incredible independent bottler. And there, what they do is they buy casks from... Have you come across them before?
I've tasted all of them from this year. Or maybe not all, but 4 or 5 cubes. The Lafroig that sold out, or rather the Islay that was
the 29.
Gold. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So they buy single casks from distilleries. They number the distilleries and then they number the casks. So it's all about the flavor.
Yeah.
And I went there to improve the relationship between my mouth, my nose, and my brain.
Amazing.
Right. And so actually, it was at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, working behind a bar that had over 200 whiskies that were all about flavor. That's where I got into it. And I really got into it there, and it was somewhere where someone came up to the bar and said, I want a whiskey. I'd say, okay, well, what sort of whiskey? And they'd be like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. And I'd start with this list of questions of like looking at what the weather was like and what were they about to eat. What was the time of day? Were they going to have a beer with it? What beer did they like? If they weren't a whiskey drinker, did they like red wine or white wine? What sort of like intensity of white wines did they like? And then from this, I would construct this idea of like, from behind the back bar of what whiskey I was going to choose from. And then I'd line up like 3 different ones and have them try them and everything
it's
like
exciting.
that.
You're curating an experience.
Well, I'm a bit of a control freak, so curating an experience is fantastic for me. But I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so it was there. And it was there also that I did my second degree in distilling, through that, not through them, but while I was working there. Yeah. But it was there working behind that bar that I realized that my passion was whiskey. And this was back in 2010 where there was no carved career path. I didn't know which way I could have gone, but I was like, I'm just going to do this and see what happens and comes out of it. So
talking about the breadth of flavor in Scotch, I mean, it's to me, it's only rivaled by mezcal. In terms of the strangeness of flavors, the curious flavors, the things that feel nostalgic. But for you, at this time, what are some notes that you actually don't prefer? Because you talk about Aberfeldy, and that's basically everything you want. That's like a Paul McCartney top 10 hit thing. It's easy to remember, it's like super smooth, it's lovable, you're going to hug it, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, what are some notes that you still, after all of these years, don't really resonate with you?
I'm a big fan of sherry.
Oh, yeah.
But I would prefer a glass of sherry than an overly sherried whiskey.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of big sherry. I like a hint of sherry.
Sure.
So Royal Brackler, another one of our whiskies, all 3 expressions are finished in first fill Oloroso sherry casks. That gives like a veil of sherry over top, like a layer of icing on a cake, right? And that's what finishing does.
It's not the foundation of the flavor.
It's not the foundation. But for me personally, I'm not a huge fan on the big tannin, big sherry cask whiskies. Okay. That would be my one piece that I don't really like.
I like that, but I think that's great to notice because that is such a style. And for me, sometimes that's all I want. Yeah. And I know I just wanted to beat me over the head. Yeah. I hate the way Bob Dylan sings, but still sometimes you want him to sing.
I think that's the incredible thing about whiskey though, and it's something that I do try and advocate quite a lot, is the fact that we're not all going to like the same thing.
Yeah.
And Craigellachie, for instance, which you really enjoy, that's kind of like a Marmite, right, of the whiskey industry. It's a love it, hate it sort of thing. And whenever I do tastings, I'll be like, who's not so fond of this whiskey? And I'm encouraging people to put their hands up because I'm like, that's a good thing. We all have different palates, right? Yeah. What I do encourage is that if you don't like something today, try it tomorrow when you're in a different mood, when you're in a different surroundings, maybe pair it with a different beer, right? I'm a big fan of beer and whiskey pairings.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, huge fan of it. We call them half and halves in Scotland. Yeah. The original Boilermaker.
I see.
Move over Boilermakers, come on. But so I'm a big fan of that. And I'm a big fan of saying to people that, whiskey isn't for everyone. And I'm very honest and open. And if I try something and I go, that's not for me, I think that's a good thing to do.
I think so too. I think knowing what you like and knowing what you don't like and being able to accept that it's okay if everybody doesn't like the same thing as you.
What about you though? I mean, do you have a flavor that you're like,
there is one, there is a flavor that I get on some of the island whiskeys.
Okay.
That to me, this peeks into the Craigellachie.
Yep.
Roasted fish.
Yep.
Right? And when you push it, there's one distillery that comes to mind where it's just a little bit too much for me.
Is it a Campbelltown distillery?
No, I love those guys. That cheesy straw thing. I love that thing.
Yeah, Springbank is like a big favorite of mine.
And all the wine cask finishes.
They're really exciting.
Yeah.
And they're Longrow Red.
Oh, dude. Yeah. They have... we could wax politically about whiskey for hours. I do not doubt that. But Lachake, for me, is just too much. And it's just too coastal, too fishy, too Eskimo-y, right?
Yeah.
But where the mushrooms, the sulfur, and the beautiful honey kind of notes all come together, on paper sound like it would be fucking a disaster.
Yeah.
And Craigellachie come together. And so this is why I'm such a fan of this thing. Because
Craigellachie is an incredible distillery. It's funny, I actually went to the maltings the other day. Wow. At Craigellachie, we're the only distillery, or Craigellachie is the only distillery in Scotland that actually oil fires its barley during the kilning process, during the malting.
What kind of oil would you?
It's like a heavy oil,
okay.
Right? But whereas we malted our barley at our distillery until 1968. At that point, we moved over to a commercial maltings. they're great.
Sure.
You know, they will malt your barley to your specifications with great consistency. But over time, a lot of commercial maltings moved to indirect firing of the barley during this kilning stage.
Oh, I see.
But what we want from Craigellachie's malt is we want it to be big, and we actually want it to be sulfurous at that stage.
Okay, good. So I'm glad I'm not just picking that up strangely.
No. So we actually burn heavy oil, and we have a direct fire underneath the barley that then dries out the barley during the kilning stage. There is one kiln, it's kiln number 2 at Glenesk Maltings in Montrose in Aberdeenshire, that is the Craigellachie kiln. So that goes into Craigellachie. The really interesting thing for me about Craigellachie is that at the distillery, we do look to create a big sulfurous style of spirit. It's meaty, it's muscular, it's robust, it's slightly umami-esque. You do have that sexy armpit, note coming into play, along with like the mushrooms. But then we also create a fruity style of whiskey. And as Craigellachie gets older, there's this like interchange, and the robust sort of sulfury note goes down, and this fruitiness starts to emerge. So there's always pineapple for me present in Craigellachie.
Interesting.
And in Craigellachie 13, it comes through. It's a slightly dried pineapple, right? Or a roasted pineapple. And then as it gets older, it becomes more and more heady, to the point with the Craigellachie 23, which I think maybe will be poured in a minute.
Yeah.
You get this incredible sort of explosion of tropical fruit, and almost like a plate of pineapple that you've left out in the sun. So it's really, really aromatic and starts to almost ferment in a way, really big pineapple. And then that sulfurous note. So even after 13 years, so this is the Craigellachie 13, even after 13 years this is in a mixture of both sherry and bourbon 50-50.
Oh, it's 50, okay.
Yeah, even after that time, I wouldn't call this sulfurous, but I'd say it's more like burnt matchstick, right? Rather than pure sulfur.
Right. It kind of, the umami thing really works for me because it's like buttered mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's not cheesy. So sometimes you get a lactic quality when you have that umami, but here it's just nicely reduced with some cream and just a little bit of salt and maybe a little bit of thyme or something. It's not particularly herbaceous, but to me, this is a dinner whiskey.
Yeah.
It's very fulfilling.
And another flavor, so a really desirable flavor that I love in whiskey is waxy.
Right.
Almost like a scented candle in a sauna waxiness. And that also starts to develop as Craigellachie gets older. And we are going to be launching soon here in the USA, Craigellachie 33.
Oh, jeez. Well, the problem is, and a lot of these guys that do these whiskey, because I talk to everybody from all kinds of industries, but a lot of the people that do whiskey-centric podcasts are like, well, what's allocation like? And like, I just know that I'm going to have to see someone at a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, can we do this thing? And it'll be in like a small flask, and then it'll happen, and it'll be a moment, and be like, at least I got to try it once.
There's not a lot of it because it's 33 years old, right? But that waxy tropical fruit, almost like you're walking through a Moroccan spice souk with like humid air and like spices in the air and rose tea and all of those sort of exotic notes coming through. Sandalwood as well. It's amazing.
Here's a couple other reasons why I like it. Now, for full disclosure, I don't work for Bacardi. I want to make sure everybody understands that if I talk at length or ad nauseum about a particular SKU, it's because I really like it, and it reminds me of something about myself or something in art that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Beyond that piece, aesthetically, the sheen, the beautiful flavor of this, it's inexpensive. It's 46% ABV.
Yep.
And it does not taste it. And you can get it. And it is an unsung hero. It is underground. It's still on those mixtapes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when I was at the Society, Craigellachie's number 44, our members knew that as soon as we got it in to buy it, because it was amazing. So this Craigellachie launched as a single malt with the Spotlight in 2014, but it did build up this underground following through independent bottlers before that. But you're right, it's phenomenal. 13 especially, I love straight. I love stirring it down in an old fashioned, but putting in pineapple syrup instead of like plain sugar syrup. Yeah, it's very versatile.
I have a Distiller's Art 23, and it is so elegant. And so anyway, if I like it so much, why don't I marry it? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I can do. But I think the laws as they stand is going to be quite difficult. Difficult hurdle for me. It's already married. Ah, yes, it is. Yeah. Oh, that's right, Craig. Ah, that's right. That's how I learned the name of this thing. What's brief tangent? What is the best / worst pronunciation that has butchered Craigellachie that you hear pretty regularly?
I mean, I'll often just get where people can't even say it. Sorry, that doesn't go down there. Being silent on a podcast isn't the best.
It was like a pantomime for confusion is what it was.
It's the point where someone looks at the name and they go, Craigellachie.
Craigellachie from 98 Degrees? That boy band? Isn't that the same guy? Nick Lachey. Craigellachie was his brother. My apologies.
That's just gone straight over my head. But sure. Craigellachie. Craigellachie.
Yeah, I heard that one.
My mum has stayed in Craigellachie. I bought her a night at the Craigellachie Hotel, and she still refuses to pronounce it properly just to piss me off. She's like, "Oh, we're gonna go stay at Craigellachie," and I'm like, "Oh,
It's a tough one. I have this guy that corrects me every time at Specs, and I'm like, "You're saying it wrong, you son of a bitch." And because I asked, I could ask you, I could ask Irene, I can ask Gabe. No, I think at this point, but he corrects me every time, and I'm like, fine.
But we do not make it easy for people in Scotland. I mean, the first time I saw the word Bunnahabhain, when I saw Bacardi, I was just like, I just don't know. Like, it's one of those things where you look at the name and you're like, I have no idea. Glenglasser.
Glenglasser, right.
Great whiskey.
Oh, the revival's lovely with all the wine.
Some friends of mine actually from Bramble in Edinburgh. It was like a 7-minute walk from my house. Still goes down as that's my home bar, right? Yeah. That is my favorite bar. They just brought out a 6.5-year-old Glenglasser peated in sherry casks. Now, I know I said before, I'm not a huge fan of sherry casks, but sherry casks done like that, goodness, it's phenomenal. Man.
Well, so all we're doing is setting trends right here in this conversation. We're just creating this next list of gifts for 2019 that everybody's going to want. Yeah. I got to make it to Bramble, too. That's the place I always suggest to folks, but I'm not.
One of the most unpretentious cocktail bars in the entire world. Yeah. I think I have a huge affinity for Edinburgh. Obviously, I live in London now. I've lived there for 2 years, and I love it. I really do. But something about Edinburgh, it's like a homecoming every time I go. And Bramble's just exceptional. Yeah. We got to try that. Yeah, I got you the dram of it. It's good.
It's a lovely marriage of the peat and the sugar. And I love Glenglasser stuff. It's really lovely. So then, I think, okay, so you've got this global ambassador. You've done everything in the best. So here's the thing. You've paid dues in a really great way. If someone was to say this is the order of operations to be prepared, or at least well positioned to be a brand ambassador globally for Scotch, you kind of did that really in a great way, in an orderly fashion.
Thanks.
Sure. I feel like a school counselor, right? You made good decisions. You got good job placement. But what is there? All of the tools that you've acquired, both in terms of communication, travel, knowledge, and your connections. Do you ever want your own blend, your own
distillery?
Label? Well, or that large, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I think most bartenders have a dream of owning their own bar one day.
Yeah.
I mean, I love whiskey through and through, and yeah, I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
One thing I can say is I love working for Bacardi, and I can say that having worked for 2 other big companies before.
Sure. Yeah, one of the biggest, if I recall, previous one. Bacardi's great though.
Bacardi
I like these guys a lot.
Is phenomenal as a company, and I think if I was ever going to do my own thing, I'd want to carry forward the values that Bacardi has as a company. That it's family owned, that it encourages its staff, its employees to be fearless, to act like owners, to value family, and to respect founders, to set up these whiskey distilleries and these whiskies today as if, we're building these up for the next 100 years. Honestly, it cares, but it also allows you to be creative as well. I've had some incredible opportunities within Bacardi. One of my most exciting at the moment, though, is that we have just hired 6 single malt ambassadors here in the USA.
Oh, great.
And that's why I'm here today, is because of Irene currently here in Austin, and, being able to work alongside Irene and the other 5 and building them up and slowly mentoring and, supporting them as a supporting actress. My job is I'm not the star. I am a supporting actress or actor, I should say, to both the whiskey, but also to Irene here in Austin.
Let's give Irene a couple minutes here a second. So I was so impressed with her just ability to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And really wanting to take it on. And the way that she's kind of provided aesthetically a connection into these brands has been really, really nice. And I, normally I don't take time to kind of talk about the ambassadors that way, but since she doesn't have a mic, so I can kind of say what I want. It's not.
She's slowly going more and more red. Tell you what, I'll describe. If you carry on talking, I'll just describe the facial reactions that are coming from her right now.
But it is such a fun crew, the Bacardi.
Yeah.
The team here in Texas, I've had the pleasure of speaking to almost everyone, and it is a family.
Yeah. But it's like that around the world. And, to go back to a point that you said a while ago was about traveling being quite a solitary thing and quite lonely. Sure, I travel everywhere by myself. FaceTime helps, of course, and it can get a little bit sad at times when I'm away from my boyfriend a bit too much.
Yeah.
But the one amazing thing is that wherever I go around the world, I'm working with people like Irene, incredible people who are friends as well as colleagues.
Sure.
And we're all like-minded. We're all doing this for the same reason. So
it's incredible.
That's amazing. So that
it feels like if I were to step across the aisle into a new industry,
I
would probably ask them for a job.
Yeah. Honestly, we have an incredible advocacy team across the world.
Yeah.
But every part of Bacardi is good. And, if you look at the portfolio as well, just even within whiskey, Angel's Envy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I went to Louisville this year on the way to New Orleans. I mean, American whiskey is very hard to get your head around. The transparency isn't at the fore.
Right, that's right.
Unless you're bottled in bonds, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But Angel's Envy was amazing to see. Angel's Envy, Dewar's, William Lawson's, part ownership in Teeling as well, Irish single malt.
Lovely.
Irish
Jack's
whiskey.
a wonderful guy. Yeah, great.
Amazing. And then we have 5 incredible single malt distilleries. Now, Bacardi may not be seen as a single malt company, right? In fact, when I joined Bacardi 2 years ago, everyone was like, but you're a whiskey girl. Why are you going to go work for a rum company? Mm-hmm. And I said, actually, it's because they have these 5 incredible single malt distilleries. They're extremely proud of them, and they want to do it in the right way.
Sure. Good price on all these, too. This is the thing. This is the thing. The Aultmore, that's an unsung hero, too.
Aultmore 12 is my
great.
perfect aperitivo whiskey. We should have one of those later, Irene.
Or here, because of course I've got one. But yeah, I mean, so that's an unsung hero. There's so much stuff that you guys have. Because let me try to name these, because just for posterity's sake. But Aberfeldy, Dewar's, Craigellachie, Aultmore, and Royal Bracla,
and the Deveron.
The Deveron. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is Glen Deveron when you go through airports.
So we're reaching this final chapter, and the way I look at this is if this was a 3-act play or a 3-act movie.
Yep.
The third act gives us our resolution, our denouement, but also kind of talks about the future a little bit. And so this is a question I ask everybody because it kind of peeks into their tastes with art and family and all that. But let's just say, because, so one, I don't want to hide this, we're now sipping the Craigellachie 23. And you're right. This gets tighter and fruitier. Tropical
fruit, that robustness still comes through. Thank you. There's a spicy sandalwood note in there as well. I'm getting a bit of oranges on it today, which I never usually get. I don't know. Whiskey maybe I'm looking at orange paper. I'm like, oh, oranges.
This tastes like lyrics. Wait a minute. It gets fruity. And almost, there's another thing going on here too, which is almost like mentholatum to me. It's very cool.
It's the texture. People don't talk about the texture of whiskey enough. And with Craigellachie, it's like, in fact, with all of our single malts, we're so lucky. Their textures are phenomenal. They're big, and this one is big and waxy and coats the inside of your mouth in this incredible, almost like sticky, luxurious sort of way. You know, it just clings in there.
It is like flan. Oh my goodness, it is. Holy shit, it really is.
So we've had sexy armpit and flan. Where else can we go?
Flan is a very Texas note, to be honest. That's something we would cover here.
I had pecan pie yesterday for the first time ever.
How'd you feel about that?
I mean, I did an extra 30 minutes of running today to make up for it. Yeah. But it was phenomenal.
So let's say because honestly, this Craigellachie would go good with pecan pie. I'm just thinking about it.
I had a Craigellachie 13 with it yesterday.
Oh, I bet it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Or a little bit of salami. There's something, I don't know. I haven't eaten lunch yet, I think is what the problem is. But so let's say you're sipping this 23.
Yep.
With anybody, anywhere in the world. Like, you know what? Let's go to Bramble. So you're at Bramble. You're sipping the Craigellachie 23. Who might you like to share a dram with, living or deceased? People you know, people you don't know.
Okay, do you know what? I'm a very personable person, and in answer to that, I would be sipping it with everyone who has helped me and supported me with my career so far and has taken a chance on me. That's who I'd be sipping it with, because I'm very much a family person.
Yeah.
And my dad would be there as well, of course, because as his only daughter, being in the whiskey industry, Christmases are amazing for him. But I would be sitting there with the owners at Bramble, Mike and Jace. I'd be sitting there with my peers, people like Ryan Chetty as well, Ian Griffiths. I'd be sitting there with all of my girlfriends from Edinburgh too, who supported me along the way from bars. Be sitting there with my boyfriend as well, who very much puts up with my traveling in a great smiling way, because he knows he's always going to get gifts at the end of it.
You have to love that.
I'd be sitting there with my Bacardi colleagues. You know, I'd be sitting there with everyone who has supported me. I've been incredibly lucky.
This is a great moment for me to be here with you two and kind of sip through these lovely drams and get to hear about Ian, which I love Ian. He was just in town last week too.
Yeah.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Great community again. So this is the last question I've got for you. So you're in town here in Austin. Obviously, there's so much shit going on. There's ACL, all these other shows. I don't know how anybody...
Did not realize that until I was booking a hotel, and I was like, wow, they're very expensive.
Yeah. What is it? Exorbitantly expensive, especially.
Yeah.
But when you kind of think about what the future holds for you, do you think about writing? Do you think about capturing this journey that you've been on in these last, since you got out of uni, basically?
Yeah, I wouldn't be not against writing. I try and keep a diary. Very bad at it, though.
Do you really?
I'm very bad at it. But I'm sure I could piece it together if I went through my photos.
Yeah.
Because I started traveling like this in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. At the moment, as I said before, my big focus is educating and breaking down stereotypes.
Yeah.
That's a big piece for me. And it's also being a supporting. I've been very, very lucky and fortunate with my career, and I don't take any of it for granted. But now what I want to do is be that support for everyone else and sort of give everyone the support that I was able to have as I was developing, and am still developing.
Paying it forward.
Yeah.
I think that's the most noble things to do as you become older. And we learn a lot, and it's best to share the things that we've learned.
Exactly. I'm like, I will push people forward. I was pushed into uncomfortable places, so it made me develop a little bit. Would I do that to other people? Well, if the situation arises, if I know that they can do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my focus, is that. And then also sharing these incredible 5 single malts with other people, then also whiskey in general, because the lovely thing about the whiskey industry, as well as you said with agave and with everything, is that no matter what brand that you work for or what company that you work for, at the end of the day, we're all friends.
Yeah.
We're all here for the greater good.
It is, and it feels that way. And the cordiality of sharing these drams and you guys making time in your schedule, I'm very, very thankful for that.
Not at all.
So, I mean, it's just kind of like a working lunch, right? That's what we're doing.
This whiskey's helping me digest my experience of Texas barbecue we just had.
Oh, perfect. It really does do that. No better whiskeys to do that too.
Yeah.
Irene, thanks so much for coordinating this. And Georgie, thanks so much for coming
Thank you so much.
Sipping. And I want to get some pictures, but also off the mic, just again, wax poetic about this. Craigellachie 23. Again, not employed by Bacardi. So thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you.
So there we have it, Miss Georgie Bell, the global malt brand ambassador for Bacardi. We specifically sipped on some Aberfeldy, I believe it's Marsala cask finished, some Craigellachie 13, some Craigellachie 23. What a life it is. And for Georgie, don't let anyone tell you you can't have a life sipping and talking about whiskey. Opportunities are there. Luck exists. Hard work will always drive you further to those amazing sipping dreams. So Georgie, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting. And I see there's a 50+ year Craigellachie on tour. I don't know where it's going to be next, but I may just fly out to get a dram. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how valuable you find eBay in times of need, or if you're thinking, I really don't want to do my taxes this year, please keep thinking.